Hey folks, Dr. Mike here from the Making Progress channel. Today's video is about how to give criticism. If you're interested in criticism in general, here's my phone number. I'll talk shit to you, JK. We have a video from earlier called How to Take Criticism and Receive It. And so that's other side of the coin now. How to give criticism. Number 47 video here under, well, relationships and dating, but relationships expanded because a lot of times you give criticism or outside the romantic relationships and even family relationships. And this one definitely extends into kind of the productivity and work sphere as well. So how to give criticism. Criticism is usually not fun to give unless it's comedic, and then it's not really criticism. But sometimes you have to give criticism so that folks in your circle, be that your work, your school, your friends, your family, or whoever, can actually improve. Remember, I'll come back to this in a little bit. The purpose of criticism is to foster improvement. There is no other purpose of criticism for an adult that thinks through things. But giving criticism can be really tough because it's a gnarly thing to take. You know you're doing someone bad when you're giving them criticism. In some sense, is not a great thing. It's like a breakup. Like, it's better for both of you in the end, but nobody sure shit likes breaking up with people. And with criticisms, it's also tough because if it's not taken well, the best case, if they don't take it well, is they just don't improve. But the worst case is like, there's a huge blow up. Shit can get real fucking personal and really intense. So yeah, that's real tough. Nobody's trying to get, situations purposefully set up to explode in their face. But we do have control over how well criticism is received because we have control over how well we give it. So let's explore some ideas about how to give criticism for the best realistic possible outcomes. I'm not trying to tell you this is going to go over well for you when you criticize someone, but it can go better than it otherwise would have if you use some of the tools in the toolbox that I will be describing. And there are quite a few, but none of them are overly complex. I will tell you this. The tips and examples I'll share with you are dope, and they're going to get you thinking. But real life giving people criticism for real, you're going to have to give it some thought before you do the actual thing. Because when we criticize, the person we're criticizing oftentimes floats into their primate animalistic emotional side, and we do as well. And then, fuck man, it's really, really tough to think clearly. You become really combative, and that leads to nothing good. So it's tough, easy to say, tougher to do. But if you say it and you know all the toolbox ways of doing really good criticism, you can just have a better time of it, period. Better effect, fewer downsides. So none of these are specifically in order, just some good tips for you to think about. First one, being ultra gentle, if you can, helps a ton. Harsh deliveries make for amazing comedy, but not great outcomes of concerted critical efforts. If you really want someone to improve, it's probably good not to nuke the foundation on which they sit. Like if you don't like how someone built a house, you don't take a bulldozer and just run through that house. You might rearrange some boards and break one wall here and put another wall there. And they're like, okay, fixed, no worries. If you look at someone's psyche like a house, you got to be real gentle moving stuff around so it doesn't collapse or they don't detect that you're in the house and metaphorically shoot you with their shotgun under their bed. Gentle delivery should be your baseline from which you proceed in all of your critical efforts. The idea that you can just fucking razz someone like, hey, Scott, the video guy, you suck at your fucking job, fucking do better. See, he's sad. But if I was really saying that to him, he'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Fuck you. Get the fuck out of my face. And that would be that. And it's sure shit not helping him understand where he could do better if I'm just like fucking railing into him. And again, we get a lot of criticisms of people railing into each other. Like you might watch my fucking other channel, the RP Strength channel, where I do the exercise scientist critique videos. And guys, I said this about 1 million times on the channel. That's comedy. And it's not meant to be directed at the person. It's meant to be directed at the viewers who have a good time with the jokes and also learn some things. If I was to work with some of the personal trainers that I comedically critique on that channel in real life, I would not start out by being like, dude, you need to go to school. You're a fucking idiot. That would not be remotely where I would start. So being gentle is a real good first step. People want you to be harsh in some sense because they want that fight. Criticism is not about the fight. You want to avoid the fight completely. Another point. It's really helpful to establish common ground before/during critical delivery. We're all on the same team type of mentality. For example, if Scott the video guy critiques my, let's say, topic selection for videos for the RP channel, I can interpret it in one of two ways. One, he's doubting the great genius that I am, and who the fuck is he? I literally, those of you who don't know, I found Scott the video guy naked, 80 pounds body weight, alone in a gutter. I nursed him back to health. My God, I left you naked a lot longer than you had to be. But how dare he? I could totally think about it like that. Or, because I've been around the block a few times, I can think, now hold on a second. Scott, who is that? Oh, he's on the YouTube team with me at RP. We're literally on the same team. And so when he says, hey, Mike, we need to take a look at some of the topics and maybe make some more topics that more folks are interested in, then his criticism has established the common ground of like, oh yeah, we're literally fighting for the same thing, for the YouTube channel to do better and better, for us to deliver more quality information to more people. How the fuck would I not be interested in Scott's criticism if I knew we were on the same team? But establishing that mentality is something Scott and I don't have to do because we're boys and kind of been at this a while, and we're just the opposite of Scott. Would you say, how offendable are we as a group of people? Like, you'd have to really try to know what you fuck dude say to us. So we're chill like that. But remember, not everyone you give criticism to is going to be like ultra fucking chill, especially if it's at work or relationships or at school. Criticism is seen as an affront. So if you manage somehow, maybe with a trite metaphor, maybe with a longer talk, establish like, hey, like, so we're all on the same team. And they're like, dude, 100%. And then if you really make them feel like that and think like that, whatever criticism you layer shortly thereafter is more likely to be taken in that team spirit mentality of like, all right, I'm going to do better for the team. You're right. 100%, I'm going to do better. That's great. The opposite of that is like when Andrew Huberman says something predictably fucking stupid again, because he says a lot of really smart shit and he says a lot of real dumb shit. Exactly like me, I would say in that regard, like everybody. You'll have people like Huberman says something stupid, and some people literally post as a fucking diatribe on his fucking Instagram, and at the end they're like, do better. Like, fuck you, pussy, you relevant asshole. Tell me to fucking do better. Not same team. You would never say to someone in your same team, do better. Like, then you're not on that team. You're not captain of the team for sure. You're just an idiot. If you're on the same level playing field, working to the same goal, and you illustrate that vibe, then criticism is much better taken on average. On average, not always. Another thing that really helps, next tip, is to establish deep value of the person and your intent to help them out. If you think about it, it's a powerful realization that simply taking the time and effort and probability of a blow-up to make organized criticism to someone is already really good evidence of the fact that you really give a shit about that person. Because remember, if you just don't care about them, you can always just fire them or break up with them instead of critiquing them. Like if I'm with you in a relationship, that's right, you the viewer, and I don't really give a fuck about you and you're doing some shit I don't like, I'm just like, hey, you know what? Like, you're great, but I'm out. But if I really fucking love you and you're doing some shit that's not great, I'm going to vex over that shit. And I'm going to try to give a criticism. But before I give that criticism, it'd be nice if that person knew where I was coming from. So not only is it same team. So if Scott the video guy was going to criticize me and I was a prickly pear and I needed some management, which many people in your life will be, maybe you're not that close, etc. Not only would he establish common ground and be like, hey, Mike, so we're on the same team, like YouTube, we're trying to make it big, right? He'd be like, yes, right. The next thing he might say in establishing that deep value is like, Mike, like, you're the fucking man, dude. You're just unreal in these 5 different ways. You're just like the YouTuber's dream. Like, you're the fucking man. I'm like, all right. And if then he goes, now here's some things we could do better. Hey, I know we're on the same team, and I know I'm a really valuable part of that team. And Scott gives a shit about me enough to tell me some shit instead of just being like, I'm just going to go work for fucking Mr. Beast or somebody else like that. Scott, could you imagine just like show up to Mr. Beast's house? You're like, I'm Scott the video guy. He's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for you my whole life. Finally, those $1 million checks we've been sending to you must have been bouncing or something. If I know that we're all on the same team, that I'm a super fucking valuable part of that team, Scott gives a shit about me, and now he's giving me tips to get better instead of criticisms. Now they're tips to get better. Holy shit. There's the goddamn 2000 whatever the fuck Lakers out here, man. Where the fuck's Phil Jackson at? That's the kind of vibe you want. Another tip. This one I'm sure you've heard, and there are hilariously terrible ways to do it, but also ways to do it that are pretty eloquent and work pretty well, is the old standard. Mom used to pack it for you in your lunch back in the day, the compliment sandwich. The compliment sandwich is really lame if delivered in a dry way, but if it's heartfelt and meaningful, it's the fucking real thing. Compliment sandwich can start from that recognition of the person's deep value, which is about the best compliment you can ever get. Then you get the criticism, which is now a tip instead of a criticism. And then after, you don't just fuck off, you recapitulate another compliment. So for example, Scott tells me, hey bro, same team. And you're the fucking man, and you're super contributing, and I really give a fuck about what happens to you and us and everything. All right, awesome. Here's a tip on how you can be a little bit better at XYZ. Okay, taken. Oh, and by the way, dude, that last fucking video script you wrote, crushed it. The video's doing fucking numbers. And then he fucks off. I'm like, oh. Did I feel bad at any point? I think maybe. But the fucking 2 breads and the compliment sandwich, not that terrible. If you walk away after criticizing someone without giving them a little bit of something nice after, you don't have to do any of these things, but they help. If you just render criticism and then fuck off, they're going to stew on that criticism. And they're going to think of, okay, he said he's on my team, but fuck that. He's a critical asshole. Fuck him. And they start to do the separation in their mind of you versus them. But if you said something kind and true, it can't be like, oh yeah, Bob, you should do your job better in every possible way. Also, cool shirt. Fuck off. He's going to be like, what a dick. But if the compliment at the end, a nice thing to say, is genuine, heartfelt, and real and substantial, and all that prickly pear feeling you had right when you were criticized, it kind of gets washed over a little bit. Like, oh yeah, I guess I can do better at this thing, being that I'm so cool at everything else. You now see yourself as, your brain's real fucking simple at some reason. The first bread is leveled. So it's like the togetherness, deep value building. Then you get criticism, and then you get top bread layer, which is second compliment, second nice thing. And if it's just 2 things, you're like, okay, this is a neutral interaction because it said some great things. They said he was a dick. If it was just a criticism by itself, which is a terrible fucking idea, it's just the brain's like, it's bad. Only bad happened. Bad. I feel bad about it. But if you have the 2 breads of the sandwich, you're actually in a 2-to-1 ratio of good to bad. So on average, after that entire interaction, simplifying things a bit, you're like, your brain's like, that was pretty good. It was pretty good. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's deep. That's powerful. That can fucking work. Next tip. As much as you can, try to give objectively referenced, actionable criticism. Things that are true in the world, not just feelings you have. And because people could be like, how do you know that? And you're like, I don't know. And things that are actionable, which means here's what you can do to improve it. This is especially true when bolstered in a formal setting like work or school with timelines for improvement evaluation. Here is the criticism. Here is how it's referenced. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're bad at your job. I'm going to tell you your sales figures, and I'm going to tell you the company average. And you know math enough to know your shit is below. And it's actionable, which is to say, hey, if you come to these kind of sales boosting mega mind meetings we have every Monday, we're going to give you all the fucking tools to get your fucking sales up like crazy. So you have something to do about it. And they say, hey, look, in 3 months, we're going to have another one of these reviews. No fucking worries at all, man. You're fucking golden. Let's get those meetings. You're going to be great. All right. Not a lot of mystery. There's a lot of that just doesn't feel like an insult. That's like objectively, I'm not selling as much as the other people. I have something to do about it, which is to go to these meetings, and I know when I'm going to be next evaluated. So it's not like this like weird, like, okay, my boss told me my sales are down, but like a week in, my sales haven't come up yet. Should I feel bad about that? Is he still judging me? Is he just going to fire me? No, he said 3 months later, we're going to evaluate you again. So take a breather, really build back up. No big deal. So to the extent that you can make your criticisms objective, actionable, and in a formal work setting style, give specific timelines for evaluation, that's really, really awesome. If you are too wishy-washy and the criticism is not actionable, it's like, okay, so you're bad, do better, and all right, I'll just keep evaluating you every second that I see you, and maybe I'll fire you one of these times. Peace. Like, oh my God, that is terrible criticism. But criticism that is objective, actionable, and gives specific timelines in context can be really, really awesome. Much better in any case. Really, really awesome criticism might not be a thing. Another one. I guess these kind of are sort of in order. A little. This is huge. Hearing out the blowback you get from them and letting people know that they've been heard. People will debate you. They'll say, I think you're wrong about this criticism. And you got to talk to them because you could be wrong. You can learn that your criticism is already being addressed, has already been fixed. You're like, hey, listen, I don't know how to say this, but you need better shoes for work. Your shoes are embarrassing. And they're like, check it out. And you're like, oh shit, damn, my shoes suck. You know what? I'm a fucking moron. I'm just going to sit in my office and think about my life. They're like, dope, see you tomorrow. So it could be already that the whole thing is squashed. You never can tell. But it's really, really important for you to hear out that person. No matter if what they're spewing is just offensive nonsense or not, you got to hear them out. Why? Because people like to be heard. Why? Because people that are heard are respected, are on the same team, and have an incentive to work with you collaboratively to make the next goddamn good thing in that relationship happen. But if you're like, hey, you suck, fix it, middle finger, see you later, they're like, but, and you walk out. I mean, is that person who gave you the criticism walked out, are they even on your team? The fuck? Like, but there's no me in this equation. You just told me some shit and fucked off. Fuck you. I'm not going to do shit. I'm out of here. Worst case, maybe not worst, but sometimes what ends up happening is you vibe back and forth a little bit, get a good discussion going, and then find a halfway point where you can both agree they need to work on their shit, you need to work on your shit, etc. Or you need to work on kind of misunderstanding them or understanding them better. They need to work on doing whatever they did better. Because sometimes you'll give people criticism and they're like, well, that's not all true. And you're like, okay, you're right. Tell me what part isn't true, what part is true. They go, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, you're actually completely correct. Wow. So 30% of what I said, well, my apologies, I just totally misconstrued it. That 70%, what do you think about it? And they're like, well, okay, yeah, 70% was valid. I'm going to try to work on it. And then, of course, you weave in the other compliment sandwich. You're like, P.S., that last thing you did or XYZ, that was just fucking awesome. You're the man. I'll see you later. That plays much better. So is it fun to hear people's blowback during criticism? No, fuck, that's maybe the worst part. But you got to do it because you got to show that person, not tell, show with your time and your patience. And you're not reflexively arguing back at them and be like, no, shut the fuck up. You were wrong about that. You got to show them they are valuable and they are part of the team. And if they feel valuable and part of the team, the probability they're going to work on their shit multiplies. If they feel they're valueless or ignored and not part of the team, they might just stick around to be a fucking stick in the mud or just get rid of themselves, which now you don't have a computer engineer. And what the fuck are you supposed to do? You got an app launch in 3 months. Next, it's usually better to make marginal criticisms instead of grandiose ones. It's really tough when a criticism seems to want you to change your entire personality. Like, holy fuck. Because sometimes when people get critical, and this one's a little bit more for relationships, romantic and familial, friendship, instead, especially romantic, instead of like work. Because at work, they usually don't give you grandiose criticisms. They just give you like, here's what you did wrong, stop fucking up. But a lot of times in relationships, people have this idea of what they want their partner to be, and that's up here, and their partner's really here. And instead of being like, hey, like, Let's work on like making sure we're not as messy or whatever. Takes them, from here to here. That's nice. Realistic, actionable, fixable, tractable. You're like, hey, this person you are, I want you up here. All right. So let me get this straight. I had a new job. No, sorry. I said that wrong. A new career. I have to completely perceive events around me differently than normal. I have to re-architect who I'm friends with. I have to start watching completely different shows because you hate all the shows that we watch currently and just didn't tell me that for a while. What else do I have to do? Grandiose criticisms, again, are for Hollywood. It's this fucking Shakespearean, like, yeah, you did this and you're that. And they're like, and then they like cry and hold each other and all is well. And then the camera zooms out and the screen goes black and it's like directed by Scott the Video Guy. And you're like, motherfuckers all over the goddamn place. A real artiste. And then you realize in real life, the camera never pans out and the screen never goes black. You're still there with that fucking person. And then the tears go away. And they're like, what do you want to do? And you're like, do you want to watch that one show? And they're like, no, I just told you I hated that show. You're like, all right, that's right. You hate everything about me. Fuck. So if you have a lot of growing pains in a relationship and you still think that person's worth it, but they got a lot of themselves that they could do better, you got to work on one thing at a time. Real small things, one little small thing at a time. Marginal improvements. Because just spilling to someone about all the fucking things that they could be doing better, bandwidth problem. And also, remember, people have egos. It's one of the reasons that criticism is tough. You give someone a small, marginal, well-delivered criticism. Hey, it's all good. It makes me better. It brings you closer together. Awesome. You give a person a grandiose treatise on why they suck and how they should be someone else. First of all, there's one of two things. Either it'll crack their fucking ego and they'll spend 58 hours straight crying, or it'll bounce right off their ego with a big middle finger and they're like, yep, I'm suing you for half our shit. Fuck you. And you're like, wow, that went really well. Don't try to solve the whole world with one gigantic mega criticism. Bad news. As a matter of fact, if you go to couples counseling with anybody and one of the couples, like, the psychotherapist is usually like, all right, Cindy, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about Frank lately? What's going on with you guys? And she's like, well, he doesn't wash the dish. He never fills the dog's food bowl. He doesn't wash and he gets home late from work, even though he knows that makes me worried, sick about. Usually the psychotherapist is like, Cindy, Cindy, I love it. That's great. Let's focus on one of those. And they'll just do 4 hours over the next week on just one of those things. Actionable shit happens. The person receives it well, they fix it, and then we move on. But if you think you can go to psychotherapy or that's a huge superpower because the therapist helps you. If you think just at home alone, you can like completely re-architect someone just by criticizing, be like, you need to fix these 10 things about yourself. And they're like, oh, yay, I'm on it. You're going to have another thing coming. That is not how it works in the fucking real world. Here's another one. This is not for all situations. This is maybe more for personal situations. Maybe when they take it not so well. This is your sort of ace in the hole. Admitting that you're also flawed. But you can't be fake about it. You got to use painful, real examples. And the more painful as fuck, the better. Especially if your example is like 10 times worse than their situation. Let's say, make up a scenario. Your significant other got drunk at a work party and blabbed about some shit that like put you guys in a pretty not so great light. Nothing crazy, but it was just like, You know, when you think people are down with racial humor, but they aren't, and you're like, oh, I'm actually not really racist. And they close the door. You're like, that's a joke. Oh my fuck. If you're talking to your significant other about that situation, you could be like, dude, really? Really? That's my boss? What are we, a fucking Ku Klux Klan household? What are you, nuts? For sure. Won't be received well. Crying, the whole fucking thing will start. But if you tell them, hey, listen, like, we talk about this? Like, yeah. You might even start with, because they're like, oh, I did something really bad. Oh my fucking God, I'm going to get it. You better look. One time, I was telling the most insane racist joke I've ever told at the expense of the Jewish peoples. So that's cool. And then unbeknownst to me, as I'd had a few drinks, actually we were on El Al Airlines and everybody around me was an Orthodox Jew. It was like a 5-minute setup Holocaust joke. It was amazing. That was a difficult flight for the rest of the 13 hours to Israel. Oops. And your partner's like, holy shit. Like, yeah. Some shit happened earlier today. And she's like, I know. You're like, it wasn't nearly that bad. And she's like, oh, yeah, for sure. Holy fuck. How did you not get stabbed? Like, oh, they're Jews. They're basically harmless, unless they're the IDF and then the opposite of harmless. In any case, what you did wasn't terrible, but like, ooh, it's a small kind. It was a little bit, ooh. And they're like, yeah, no, I know. Okay. How bad is it? You're like, look, I don't think my boss even heard you, but if he did, I'm cool with him Monday morning, or I'll even text him and be like, hey, sorry about that joke. It's kind of weird. He'll probably be like, what joke? But like, the one my wife told is kind of racial. He'd be like, oh, I was just other people around, other coworkers. He's like, I was laughing in my own head all the way. I fucking laughed with my wife all the way through the fucking driveway and all the way down the freeway about that shit. I love it. I'll tell you some more jokes in the privacy of our own office the next day. You're like, oh my God, crisis averted. That if you didn't offer your own, like, dude, I've done this shit, but like 10 times worse before, it makes that person that's getting the criticism feel like they're like the worst thing that's ever happened in this fucking world. And you're an angel and you're up here and they're down here and your megaphone, like, you fucking suck. And they're like, the chance that you will be heard and understood and same team and everything will improve is much, much lower than if you bring yourself down to their level, ideally way below their level. And in context, share a story about how, look, man, you think you did bad. Yeah, but I've done way worse. Their proclivity to perceive you as the superior and them as the inferior, you as the noble, unfettered angel and them as the sinner, terrible person that needs all this guilt, it's just hard for them to hold that in their head when the story you just told was like, dude, I've done 10 times worse than this. It's kind of trippy. It's kind of like, I've seen some bullshit videos about like, like trying to get people to like be not racist or whatever. And like the guy who's telling like a group of young whites that are marginally racist not to be racist. They're like, well, I don't know, man, because they think the guy's like a leftist or whatever. And he tells them a story. This is legit. I've seen a video or two on the internet about this. The guy will be like, actually, I used to be a literal neo-Nazi. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I did real bad. You guys want to hear about some of it? It says about some of the shit he did. And they're like, holy fuck. So he's like, when I'm telling you this is a bad road to go on, I don't mean to be judgmental. I just mean like I've been down that road and it doesn't end well for you. Fuck what it happens to the other races. And they're like, yeah, damn. Now, whatever racial not so great things they did or said, they feel still bad about them. But now you're speaking from beneath them instead of from above them in terms of that whole spectrum of ego. And they might much more likely to be like, yeah, okay, yeah, no, point well taken. Holy shit, did you really do that? Like, oh yeah, went to jail and everything. And they're like, holy shit, all right, yeah, better stop now. That sort of thing. So admitting your flaws in whatever context might be a good thing to do. Next point, only 2 points left. Timing and locating the criticism well can be a really, really big deal. Not in front of others is almost always a good idea, unless you can't be prevented. Criticizing people in front of others introduces this whole nasty social dynamic of shame and guilt and embarrassment. You don't want any of that shit. Avoid it at all costs. Not all costs. Avoid it in most cases that you can. Another thing is, it's generally, and this is really counterintuitive, to avoid criticism right after the act or the indiscretion or whatever it was, if you can avoid it. So for example, let's say that one of your friends you brought to a dinner party said some really rude shit, like capital R rude, like shit you don't say. Maybe you don't give them a piece of your mind in the car ride back, but maybe like the next day when you're chilling, you can bring it up. No one around, and it's not right after the fact. Right after, there's 2 reasons why right after the fact is not a good idea. One is they're probably, if they became aware of the fact that they did not so nice thing, they're aware of it and they're really extra fucking defensive about it or just really emotional. And the much more important thing, because they could be aware of it or not, much more important thing is you're hot-headed right after. So why do you want to criticize someone after they said some shit? Because it fucking pissed you off. You fucking don't say things like that in public. Are you your goddamn mind? You have a lot of feelings. This all super nice, well-meant collaborative effort bullshit that I'm talking to you about is real hard to do, is real hard to vomit out of your mouth to someone when you're fucking pissed. Like, I'm clearly on a crap load of steroids. Well, right now, for sure, clearly in general. And when I'm trying to be lovey-dovey and nice and I'm on high enough dose of gear, I know intellectually what to say, but it's so fucking hard to say. And I'm like, I respect you also. Dragon Ball Z Blast. When you are just after the event, you're probably not in the position to be rendering criticisms the best way possible. Even if you say all the right things, according to this little manual here, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, your body language, they might just be like, you're mad, aren't you? And then, oh, fuck, bitch, you asked for that shit. Yeah. So if you can give time to cool off to them and to yourself, take the scenario somewhere else or wait until the scenario is elsewhere with nobody else around that was around for that one thing, that is giving you your best chances. And then once you get there, you deploy all the other stuff that we've been talking about. And lastly, and this is really, really importantly for friendship, super important for romantic interactions, and ultra mega super duper important for workplace stuff, is to make sure that criticisms are not your primary and certainly not your only mode of interacting with somebody. Telling people that they are doing good work when they are, you never lie to people, is just as important. A lot of people think that their job at work as a superior to other people is to just shut the fuck up when things are going great. And when things go poorly, they just piss and moan. This is the equivalent to the sensation of pain in your body. When you're not in pain, do you feel ecstasy? No, you just feel normal. Nobody lost, nobody found. When you prick yourself on a nail or something, you feel terrible. That's how pain works. It's either does not there or it's bad. Or if you're a fetishist like Scott the Video Guy, really good in certain situations. Do you like pain? Do you want to have pain around? Is pain a good thing? It's a kind of a necessary thing. But if you found a way to get away from all pain, you probably would run as fast as possible to that thing. If you're the kind of person at work or in a relationship that either says nothing or criticizes, you are dynamically like pain. You are not seen or heard from if things are going well. If things are going poorly, motherfuckers see you and hear you, which gives you, first of all, a bad time. And second of all, they learn to associate the very existence of you and the very interaction of you with just bad. You become analogous to bad things, and not for bad reason either. It's a goddamn good reason, because you only ever show up when things are bad. If you want to be a good partner relationship, which I know nothing about, I try my goddamn best. A good person in the workplace, a good superior, a good teammate, a collaborator. I highly implore you that when people are doing good work, you fucking let them know. And I don't mean trite bullshit like, hey, good job, Bob. You're doing the thing you do, I think, for us all day long. You're great. You're Bob. See ya. Real talk. Really maybe sit down with someone and be like, dude, I just wanted to tell you, you're fucking crushing it, man. And specifics are good too. Like your last XYZ reports that you wrote, tip of the spear. And I mean that. And I want you to think about what I said, because you should be really fucking proud of yourself because you're a goddamn star. They don't leave work the same way. They leave work like, holy shit. Holy fucking shit. And then next week when you have criticisms, they're like, yeah, no problem, boss. This guy's on my team. This guy thinks I'm the fucking man. But if they only ever hear criticisms from you, it's a bad time. Giving people excellent feedback, like watch how a professional football team plays. When they score a touchdown or run, past the fucking get more than 10 yards or whatever, do the guys congratulate each other or make a big tackle or some shit, stoppage, etc.? Or do they just like robots, business as usual? But when someone fucks up, they fucking bitch about it. As a matter of fact, sport teams are so goddamn functional, they're the opposite. Women's volleyball. I used to be a sports scientist for women's volleyball. I noticed something really crazy that almost all volleyball teams do. Now, they do it sort of performatively, but they do feel it a ton for real. You can tell when it's more performative, but better performative than not in this case. When the team scores a point, the girls fucking all like clasp hands and cheer. Woo! Awesome. Good job, Stacy. When a girl fucks up or they miss or some shit happens and they lose a point or the ball transfers over, usually what I think they're coached to do, but what they do goddamn well, is they fucking slap high five to each other anyway. Like, hey, no worries. Let's go. Let's pick this up. We're all good. You don't even barely get criticism. It's either praise or nothing. And girls know that when it's nothing or when it's just kind of like, hey, all right, let's get it done. No worries. You're good. They know that really means criticism, but it lacks the invective of just fucking you suck. It's just not a thing. You guys think in the football huddle that they're like, you fucking suck, you blow, get it together? Sometimes, rarely. Usually it's like, hey, let's fucking do what we need to do, right, fellas? All right, sweet. And then when the fucking play hits, when the touchdown happens, everybody's fucking celebrating, of course. But when your team gets a touchdown by, launching a new product for you or, running an awesome marketing campaign or doing awesome customer service, you're nowhere to be found. But when they fuck up, oh shit, you're there like wine on rice. Well, you fucking suck. You do this better. You do that better. That does not lead to a very effective, highly functional team. You want to become super rich? You want to have business that takes off? You'll love the fuck out of your people and tell them all the fucking great shit they're doing all the goddamn time. And when they're doing not so great, you deliver it super gingerly with all of these tips that I've laid out for you here. That 1-2 punch means fucking team unity and cohesion goes up a ton. Magic fucking happens there because people just do their goddamn best for you tirelessly. And then you get rich. And when you're rich enough, you can finally stop pretending, give them all the middle finger, take your whole corporation with you, leave these people penniless and alone. And then finally you're the man. I think. Last thing I'll say is some retort to people that are only ever critical is sometimes they'll be like, well, I'm just being honest. Honesty's cool. It's cool. But it can be true that you're just being honest. But because you're honestly a fucking dick, then that honesty can render you as having been truthful and also friendless and less heard. So that whole bullshit was like, well, I just keep it real. Most of the people that say they keep it real are people that other people fucking hate because their version of real is that they're just pieces of shit that are mean. So if you have someone in your life that keeps it real, but that means when they're fucking happy and everything's going well, they tell you how much they love you and everything's great. But when things aren't going well, they keep it real and say, hey, look, things aren't going great. Hey, that's awesome. You got a real one. That's fucking great. But if someone's idea of keeping it real is only keeping it negative and never keeping it positive, because positive is real too, then yeah, they're just not going to square peg round hole situation. You're not going to want to be around them. So criticisms are meant for teammates that you think are awesome and who you want to improve because you think they're the shit and they're worthwhile. So you're going to package criticisms in that mood, in that atmosphere of togetherness, of cooperation, of taking you versus them, you above them below, and reversing it or making it neutral, of hearing them out. It's a communication. It's a teamwork thing to render criticism. And not only do you do that, but you don't just render criticism. You render praise when it is appropriate, and there's tons of time when praise is appropriate. I could literally send a fucking email. I don't do this. It would annoy people. I could send an email to all of RP staff every day because you guys have made XYZ amount of total money for us every day. It's a lot of money. They should be proud every single fucking day they make this money. If they all went away, there'd be no money. I don't do that. But every time people fuck up, someone's got to talk to them. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Tons and tons of praise. Really contextualize well thought criticism when necessary. It's just going to make everyone around you have a really good time versus a really bad time. If you're into that sort of thing, dope. If you're into more bullshit life advice I make up on the spot, see you guys next week. Peace.